This podcast may contain strong language and adult themes. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Voice Notes from Connor, the podcast where I'll be listening to old voice notes and memos from my past self and responding as my present self with some guests along the way. If you've joined us later in the series, we're halfway through now. The podcast is a random assortment of culture, life, a dash of politics, although if you go to episode 2, if you're working your way backwards maybe, going a bit non-linear with it, it's a bit more than a dash of politics in that episode, but a dash of politics, a sprinkling of politics throughout the whole series, some musings, opinions, etc. And as I mentioned there at the start, there's some guests along the way, so some episodes will include a guest voice note that I respond to. For future series, we would love to hear your voice notes, either ones that you've dug up from the past, maybe from iMessage, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or whatever, or ones that you've specifically recorded to be aired on this podcast. If you'd like to send those in, please send them to vnfcpodcast@outlook.com. That's vnfcpodcast@outlook.com. And you can also find us on TikTok and YouTube. In today's episode, we have 2 voice notes from my past self, and we have a voice note from my wonderful producer Evan as well, which I'm looking forward to. And we're going to go past self, Evan, past self. So when Evan's ready to start the first voice note, take it away. I feel like our culture is really critical of people who aren't spontaneous. Even though a lot of people aren't actually that spontaneous, there's this like cultural idea that being spontaneous is like a better way of living, because you only live once, so why would you bother to overly plan your life? You should live your life like, live every day, take advantage of different things, and not be too kind of set in your ways or whatever. And throughout a lot of my life, that's something so I'm not actually very spontaneous, and it's something I've talked about in therapy, of like, I'm not very spontaneous, but I want to be. And now I've just come to terms with the fact that I'm not, and that's absolutely fine. But a lot of people in my life, or people that I've met throughout my life, tend to be quite harsh toward that. Almost like you're boring, you're set in your ways, you're not a fun person if you're not like, wake up one day and go, oh, should we drive to Bournemouth for the day? And I think, fuck off, I need at least a week's notice for that shit. Okay, so firstly, slight apologies about the wind there in the voice notes. The phone was really picking up the wind that day. Something I think about quite a lot, actually, and something that in my earlier life, in my, early 20s, mid-20s or whatever, I was more bothered by, and it actually used to, I wouldn't say it consumed me. My brain said that then. It was like, it consumed you. I don't think, slightly dramatic. My brain can be quite dramatic at points. I wouldn't say it consumed me necessarily, but it was something that I thought about quite a lot, because people would say it to me, oh, you're not very spontaneous, you could be more spontaneous. And I said there about, in our culture, like, there's some kind of value attached to spontaneity. And I've written here, actually, I think it's quite romanticised. I think there's a romanticised idea around spontaneity, that you're, as I said in that, as my past self said in that voice note, that there's almost like you're more fun. There's some, like, you're really living life if you're being spontaneous. If you're just going out and doing things on a whim, that's a better way to live your life. And actually, for me, I mean, sometimes I don't really know what I want to do, or if someone says, oh, do you want to go to Bournemouth today, or go on this long drive, or do this thing that I hadn't planned on doing, I will literally freeze. I'll just freeze in the moment and go, a part of me, and I think this does feed into, as I've discussed in previous episodes, having ADHD, so autism and ADHD. also being a Gemini, so the two sides of me, and being non-binary and all these different things. I can't just be one thing, can I? That one side of me goes, okay, that could be quite fun actually. Go on, take a risk, be a daredevil, go and drive to Bournemouth on the day and enjoy yourself. The other half of me goes, absolutely, what the fuck are you talking about? We've got a day planned here. We can't just throw away watching Ted Lasso and then going to Tesco and getting a meal deal and then going for a walk. Come on now. So I often find myself in that like freeze state when it comes to spontaneity and people throwing things on me. Like in the past, I've been at work and one of my colleagues has said, I'm going to this concert tonight. I've got a spare ticket. Do you want to come? And I'm there like, oh, shit. Because the people pleaser side of me starts to take over because I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to say no now. And also then you get that fear, which I've talked about in previous episodes, like that fear of being judged and people thinking you're boring or, oh, for God's sake, why don't you just do these things? It's like, leave me alone. If I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. I think that also for me comes from a need for structure and routine, and spontaneity often isn't really embedded within structure and routine. And there can often be a misunderstanding, I think, around people's desire for routine and structure, particularly neurodivergent people, so autistic people, etc., that routine is literally doing the same thing every day. So I'll get up at this time, I eat this same breakfast, I do this, I do that like a robot. That's not what it is actually. It's really a need for safety and comfort. So it's a need for what's going to happen, what's coming up. Even if you structure your day, it's a different day from yesterday. It's not the exact same routine. If you've given it structure, there's safety within that. And that's something I think I used to carry some shame, actually. And I know some people might be listening or watching and thinking, why would you be ashamed of that? But I think I did attach shame to it. Why do I have to be this way? Why can't I just be really free-flowing? I went through a stage where I noticed that days off that I had, so say the weekend or a week off, a half term, if I hadn't planned a day and I got up at these days 9 o'clock or whatever, and hadn't structured the day, I'd just be floating through the day I could go to the cafe now, but then I could do this, and everything becomes like a could, and there's 1,000 possibilities. Then you just end up scrolling on your phone, or you end up doing something that I don't actually find that enjoyable. So I'm going to share this now. I don't tell any people this because, again, there might be judgment, but at this point I don't particularly care, which is if I'm off the night before, if I sit and structure the whole next day, I'll get up and I'll feel nice and relaxed and I'll have a great day most of the time, depending on mood and other things that are going on in my life. I mean literally, in my notes, wake up, chill in bed, get up, make breakfast, and all these things, maybe meet a friend for a coffee, come home, watch this exact film, do this, do that, do this. I'll get to the end of the day, I'll be in bed again, and I'll think, I've had a lovely day. But that doesn't happen as often if I didn't plan it and structure it in that way. So it's definitely connected to neurodivergence and maybe my personality as well. I can be spontaneous, but it's often spontaneity in this small bear. So I was talking about this with a friend recently, making them laugh, because I was like, my idea of spontaneity is we've decided to go to this burger place for dinner, and we've gone out for some drinks, but then actually we'll go to a Mexican place instead of the burger place. How spontaneous. We just changed it on a whim, within 5 minutes. So judge me all you like. But at this point, I've come to terms with the fact. Thankfully, I feel good about that as well, that I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not a particularly spontaneous person. And again, that internalization that I've talked about in previous episodes, where you internalize social expectations, you internalize what other people say to you and their judgment of you, when you care about that, especially if it's from someone that's closer to you, like a family member or a friend, that you take, anyway, because I'm quite a sensitive or highly sensitive person, I really take that in and think that's quite a shameful part of my identity and my personality is that I can't do that. When I can now and again in little bursts, little sprinkles, but yeah, now I enjoy the structure, and I always just wonder how many people really do actually enjoy doing really spontaneous things. I think there are people out there, clearly. There's risk takers that can come with things like ADHD as well, actually. So some people with ADHD are very spontaneous because they have that need for dopamine, and they will seek thrills, they will seek things that are perhaps risky in some way, and that might then be shaped by a spontaneity, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I do also think it's slightly romanticised in our culture, being spontaneous and what that means for you as a person. So yeah, there we go. Right, I think we're going to move on now to a voice note from Evan. Take it away.
Hello, Connor. This is your producer, Evan, speaking. And my question for you is, has a song or a piece of music ever been kind of ruined for you because you've heard it so many times, or it's just been played so many times and you're just sick of hearing it? Because last night my friend told me that she can't listen to the song Girls and Boys by Blur anymore because she just heard it so many times in the club in first year, and it was played in her house so much. So yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Has a song ever been ruined for you because you've just heard it so many times?
Well, thank you for that, Evan. Yeah, interesting. Yes. So my first thought was definitely started writing some songs down there because I was like, okay, obviously I've got to speak about it now. I can't sit here thinking about it for ages. But yeah, so generally, yes, definitely there's been songs that have been ruined for me. I've got a few coming to mind. So I would say, even though I'm not a fan of Ed Sheeran, the fact that his songs are played so much also like compounds how ruined they are. So like, I'm not a big fan. I don't think his music is particularly good. I think it's very overrated, especially something like Galway Girl, which I consider one of the worst songs of all time. But then he also does have some good stuff. His collaboration album, I actually thought I would say was solidly good. And that was because it wasn't just him. There was other people involved. So his collaboration album was good. But yeah, so straight away I thought, because he just get plays so much, like Azizam, his song that he's got out at the moment, I actually think it's a good song, a solid pop song. But I've heard it so many times when I'm in the car, when I'm doing a workout in the evening or in the morning, whenever it tends to be. That I've heard it so much, it's just like, oh, here we go again, Azizam, whatever, ruined. The next one, actually, is from an artist that I love, and that's Dua Lipa. So Dua Lipa is one of my favourite artists. I just think she's fantastic. I've seen her live twice. Saw her live in 2022, best concert I've ever been to, and I saw her live this year at Wembley Stadium as well, and that was fantastic. Wasn't going to go, actually. I got tickets from a friend. So one of my friends, her friend, came over from Australia for the first time in a long time, and then she couldn't go because it clashed with other things. And we had really good seats because I think Stadium, I'm making a note because I'm going off track here and I've got to keep myself back on track. Stadium gigs can be very hit and miss because it's so, depending on where you sit, it's so big that like you can't see anything and the music doesn't quite hit your ears properly, I think. So it also depends on who you see. But we saw her at Wembley Stadium, and the friends I'm referring to, I find that like they know this because I've said this to them. They can be a bit jammy with stuff like that. They're quite lucky. So I said to my best friend Bridget, who I went with, I was like, we're going to have good seats here because they got the tickets originally. If it was us, we were right at the back. But we didn't even need to look at where the seats were. I know there'll be good seats, and they were, and it was so good. So she's fantastic. Look, Don't Start Now, I think, is one of the best songs of this decade so far. However, Levitating, which I really love, I think it's so camp, it's so fun. And I think she said, actually, when she was writing Future Nostalgia, that she wanted Levitating to almost be like a song that would be on the intro of an Austin Powers film. And the overall album is purposefully quite postmodern and playful, lots of pastiche, like with Physical. referring to Olivia Newton-John's Physical, and obviously that idea of going back to older styles like your 70s disco and stuff and reworking that in a contemporary context. Yes, I can even make Dua Lipa's albums academic. Yeah, but I think they're really good, but levitating. Who thought it was a good idea to put that on a Morrison's Christmas advert? It ruined it for me, and I think it ruined it for quite a lot of people, actually, to the point where I didn't listen to it for a while because I just need to have a distance from it. So then, when I listen to it in the future, I'll be like, oh yeah, this is a camp, fun banger. Instead, it was just I just had that association with Morrison's Christmas advert, and it was ruined. On the other hand, some songs that I've listened to a lot that haven't been ruined, which I was thinking about literally the other day, one of them being Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. Now, I really thought last summer when it came out, I love this song. It's great. Again, it's camp, it's fun, it's for the gays and it's for the girlies. It's great. But I'm gonna get to a point where this feels ruined for me, and it hasn't. I've listened to it now hundreds of times, and that's probably a testament to how good that song is as well. It's just like really, really good pop song, nailed it. And I'm not fed up with that yet, actually. The other one that's just come to mind, Evan, is no, but you might need to remind me of the song title. It's Beyonce, Texas Hold'em, that was played a lot last year. Was also another one that I saw Beyonce when she did her Renaissance tour 2 years ago. So I think Renaissance as an album is, I would say, the best album of this decade so far. I think it's, oh God, I love Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa, but I just think that was such a good album. And then obviously she followed that up with Cowboy Carter, which I also think is a good album, to be fair. But yeah, Texas Hold'em got played so much, it was just like, oh God's sake, Capital, could you like... So I tend to listen to Capital, Radio 1, Radio 2, Smooth and Hot. So we've got quite a mix there. Like your Radio 2 and your Smooth probably align a little bit more, though Radio 2 does play a mixture. So it'll play newer songs in 80s, 90s, etc. And then obviously Capital and Radio 1 align as what they would identify as youth stations. I'm 31, so, I like to think I've got a bit of youth still. So I like to listen to, like, new music, particularly like Jack Saunders' show in the evening on Radio 1 to listen to new music and stuff. But yeah, Capital must have been playing that song every fucking 15 minutes, and it was so annoying. So there's, off the top of my head, a few songs. I know in one episode we're going to have a voice note about Insomnia by Faithless. I don't know when that's queued up because Evan's decided that. That actually was ruined for me when I was younger because my parents used to play it a lot because they, my parents are young. So my mum had me, she was 19, my dad was 21. So I'm 31, so they were young parents. And I have two, I didn't mention this in the opening episode, I have two younger brothers as well. So I'm 31 and they're 22 and 16. So when I was younger, they were in the 20s, they still enjoy going out, they enjoy dance and house and garage and all that kind of music. So they used to play Insomnia and they were like really into it, they loved it. And me, like as like an 11-year-old, be like, oh my God, you're so cringy, why'd you have to keep playing this song? For God's sake, it's doing my head in, you've ruined this song. Now I have that's my past self, I have a very, very, very different opinion on that song now, but we'll come on to that maybe at another point soon. So yeah, there we go, Evan. There's some songs that have been ruined for me, being overplayed or whatever. So yeah, thank you for that. Let's conclude this episode with one more voice note from my past self. I think it's funny how people that are into indie music, rock music, alternative music, think that they know so much about music that they have got a better taste. The genres that they like are better, superior than a lot of pop genres like dance or house or disco, just your general pop music. But I'm listening to Radio 1 now, actually, whilst doing a workout, and they're playing songs from the 2010s. And I also listen to Radio 2. The amount of songs that I know, very, very rarely do songs come on that I don't know. Yet, if someone who only listen to those kind of genres and think they're all superior and like, I'm so into music, listen to a lot of this, probably wouldn't know all of these songs. Everything from Work From Home by Fifth Harmony to Sunflower by Post Malone to Raw by Katy Perry, to other songs by like Drake or Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, Charlie XCX, etc. And I just think it's so funny how I know people that do this, where they have this like reputation for being so into music, yet they're only into a very niche part of music, and that then is made superior. Okay, yeah. So I think it's the thing there about being so into music is where I'll start with that, because obviously I've had people that enjoy, say, pop music, say they're into music, of course, but a lot of people that I've met, like in the pub or colleagues, friends, I don't know, peers when I was at university, etc., would say so into music is like alternative rock, heavy metal, those kind of genres, which I also think are also quite masculinized genres. So it's quite I would say often it's men that I'm talking to that would say that. So it's more of like a masculine thing. I'm so into music, but I'm only into this kind of music over here, this smaller subsection, and that means I know loads about music because I listen to Radiohead and Arctic Monkeys or whatever else. See, I can't mention any other bands because I don't know loads of others because I'm on the other end of the spectrum. But that kind of thing, and then like, you think you're so into music because you love Beyonce and Charlie XCX or whatever. And then actually I'm start to think, oh, okay, yeah. So you're saying this in a way where it's like you think your music taste is better, but your music taste is also quite masculine, and you're being quite derogatory toward what could be seen as more feminine, camp, gays and girlies music. So that's an interesting part that maybe these people don't actually realise when they're saying it, but doesn't mean that it's not subtly encoded within their declaration that they're so into this kind of music. And I think there's a historical context here as well that shapes this attitude, which is about those kind of, so like folk or rock or those genres that people are so into, and they're so into music and know loads about music, is that they were played by people playing instruments. It's a purer form of making music. It's a better form of making music as well. Whereas then making electronic music isn't as good. It's not as skilled, and therefore that music shouldn't be celebrated as much, or shouldn't have as much critical acclaim as music played by actual musicians who are on stage playing the instruments or whatever. So some of my research that I've done before also feeds into this around. So I'm quite interested in the 1970s, and I love disco music. So when I was growing up, so I've already mentioned that my parents used to listen to like house and dance, garage, pop music as well. Like my mum could listen to something like there's Sing It Back or Bring It Back by Moloko. Sing it back, bring it back. Can't remember what it is, Sing It Back or Bring It Back, but anyway, something like Moloko or Faithless or whatever, and then she'd have the Cause on, and I can't stand the Cause, they are so bad. Or Steps. So actually, it's quite interesting now I think about my music taste. It's quite varied in the more popular end of the spectrum. That could have come from my mum, actually, yeah. But anyway, so my mum and dad would listen to that kind of music, and then my grandparents, who were like at that point when I was quite young, in their 40s, in their 50s, were listening to Motown and 60s and 70s music and disco music. So that very much shaped then my music taste, and obviously I have branched out from that as well. So I do listen to a little bit of indie music now and again, a bit of rock now and again. But obviously that's not my preferred genres. But in the 1970s, for instance, when disco came along, some people, mainly straight people or your purists, were very harsh toward it because it was seen as very capitalist music that was popular, that was only for the masses. So therefore, it's not as good, because we know anyone that's into like film, TV, music, as soon as something becomes mainstream or for the masses, it's like, it's not as good. It's not critically as good, which isn't always the case. And then, so we had that in the 70s. So it'd been made for like mass audiences. It's very capitalist. It's electronic, so it's not always fully made with people playing instruments, or it's not as pure. And also that it was for gay people and black people, so marginalised and oppressed groups were really into disco music. So there's loads of stuff like going on there. So I think that kind of attitude, even though someone like, I don't know, nowadays is not thinking, well, obviously my attitude toward rock music is shaped by 1970s context of folk versus disco. I think it's just been going on for a long time, basically, these kind of attitudes and this divide within people who are into music. Because actually, when you look at the genres I'm into, it is quite widespread. So house, garage, disco, pop. I do like a bit of indie. I like R&B. I like ballads. I like power ballads. I like music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Every decade, I'll listen to everything from like Elvis Presley to David Bowie to, I don't know why my brain said Sister Sledge. I don't actually listen to Sister Sledge much, but Sister Sledge. Chic, Celine Dion, all the way then through to like some of your early noughties dance music, which is so good, by the way. To people now like all your girlies, really, like Jessie Ware, Charlie XCX, Dua Lipa, Sabrina Carpenter. I like a bit of Haim. Is it Haim or Haim? I think it's Haim, isn't it? Yeah, I like a bit of Haim. For instance, Florence and the Machine is fantastic as well. I had another band that I was into then, but they've fallen out of my brain, so I'll leave it there. And then when you speak to some people that are so into music, it's like these three genres that I like, and I know loads about them, and that means that I'm into music. You listen to Sabrina Carpenter, whatever, and I'm just there like, okay, yeah. So I think actually maybe we could all broaden our music taste in some ways. Even myself, I probably could listen to more rap or heavy metal or rock, to be honest. We all have our tastes, that's fine. I've met other people that do actually listen to a range, like everything from classical to Charlie XCX to AC/DC. I've thought of one, or Def Leppard, I don't know. Someone like that, or Oasis, or Blur. Blur are a band, right? My brain went Blur and Pulp together, and Pulp a band.
Yeah, they're two separate bands.
They're two separate, yeah. Anyway, that was, what was that called, Evan? That was 90s something, wasn't it? Those Britpop, of course. Pop. That's interesting as well. Well, obviously we get shifting changes, don't we, of what pop could be considered as. I wouldn't really consider those bands pop necessarily, but then again, maybe we have different ways of defining these genres. But yeah, so if you are one of those people, just be honest with yourself. If you are one of those, I'm so into music, but I only listen to 3 genres. Go and listen to some. Go and broaden your horizons. And if you have any recommendations for me as well, that would be great. I do enjoy listening to new music. My friend Ben, who's featured on the podcast as a guest so far, has been 2 episodes. He was in a band, very different genres to what I listen to, and I was listening to music that he enjoys recently, and some of it I was into, to be fair, and I will listen to it. Doesn't mean I'll regularly listen to it, but I will step outside of my comfort zone sometimes to listen to different things. I do that with film, I do that with TV, other forms of media, podcasts, all sorts of different things. So give something new a try, basically. So yeah, there we go. Right, that brings us to the end of episode 5. Thank you for joining us again. And thank you. We'll see you soon. Ciao for now. You've been listening to Voice Notes from Connor. Created, hosted and starring me, Connor Winterton. Produced and edited by Evan Greaves. If you'd like to get in touch, you can message us on TikTok and YouTube. And if you'd like to get in touch via email, our email address is vnfcpodcast@outlook.com. You can send us any feedback, any thoughts on the episodes, as well as your own voice notes that might make it into future episodes or future series. So that was vnfcpodcast@outlook.com. Thank you very much.